Hello and welcome to Beautifully Balanced. Health and happiness aren't found in a bottle of prescription pills or with any fad diet. Instead, we can activate your body's natural ability to heal itself. And that is exactly what we're going to do together here. I'm Sarah Teeple, a women's integrative health practitioner, and I blend the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern science of functional medicine to help you heal your gut, rebalance your hormones, and calm anxiety naturally. Here I'll teach you the smart, sustainable, personalized, and fun way to use nutrition, herbs, and healthy lifestyle to feel vibrant, energized, and beautiful inside and out. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Beautifully Balanced. I'm so glad you're here today, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. It's such an important one today. Today, we are diving into hormones. Whew! What a big and important topic. I feel like when I say hormones, I want to hearken that like screaming face emoji that's like, hormones, ah! That is the way most of us think and feel about our hormones. Although I want to rewire your brain around this topic. And instead, I want us to start thinking about the hearts in the eyes emoji when we think about hormones. If we have to bring emojis into this, that's the way I would want to do it. So hormonal health, holistic hormone health. Every aspect of our lives influences our hormonal health. From our genetics, to our gut, to our job, our relationships, our self-talk, our home and personal care products, and so much more. All of these factors play a role in our hormonal health. And as women in our culture and with our doctors, we're often dismissed or told that our discomfort, pain, fertility issues, mood and energy fluctuations related to our hormones, we're told that these are all normal, they're no big deal, just buck up, etc. I'm here to re-educate today and empower all of us around our hormones. We currently have an epidemic of hormone imbalance. It may manifest with you as painful periods or a condition like PCOS, endometriosis, fertility issues. It could be playing out in your life as a slow and daunting perimenopause. My other ladies in their 40s were starting to experience this. I'm 43. Haven't started experiencing any symptoms yet, but sometimes our perimenopause can be long and filled with issues like weight gain, hot flashes, and so much more. But it does not have to be this way. That's why we're here today. We can reconnect with our bodies. We can tune in to our bodies and listen compassionately. And we can solve many of these issues ourselves with nutrition, with herbs, with lifestyle practices, with our self-talk. So we're here today because we believe that the only solutions are not the pill or a hysterectomy. These are not our only options. Although I cannot tell you how many clients I've had and currently have who have been presented these, get on the pill or have a hysterectomy as their only options. It is ludicrous. So, no wonder we're so out of touch with our bodies. But in these 2 episodes, so this is going to be a 2-parter, my 4 hormone tips. We're going to break it up into 2 tips, 1 episode, 2 tips, another episode, because I like to keep these eps digestible, fun, empowering, but a little bit shorter for you. So in these 2 episodes, I'm going to empower you with my top 4 hormone tips to get you more aligned naturally with your body's wisdom and rhythms. So here we go, ladies. Today in our hormonal deep dive episode, our 4 hormone tips, I want to establish a foundational concept. And that concept is that your sex hormones, more commonly known and thought of as your estrogen and progesterone, they do not exist in a vacuum. I have so many clients who come to me with painful periods, with fertility issues. Maybe they're at the beginning of what feels like it's going to be a long and daunting perimenopause, and they're already experiencing lots of symptoms that they don't like and they just want to get rid of. And they think, oh, how can I address my estrogen and progesterone? How do I get rid of these hormonal symptoms? So, the good and the bad news is that it's not as simple as that. Hormones and our sex hormones do not exist in a vacuum. So, I'm going to lay out for you how there are many different types of hormones and how these hormones can work together, but they're often working against each other, kind of as a result of lots of factors. All the factors that I mentioned in the introduction. It could be poor diet, work, or marriage stress, toxic self-talk, beauty and self-care products that have toxic ingredients. So lots of things can play into what results as issues with your estrogen and progesterone, but it's more complex. So, and again, I'm going to tell you how this can actually be good news. It's going to be a big relief. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about these hormones. So, of course, we've got our female sex hormones, our estrogen and progesterone, and we all know what those are responsible for. But if you want to deep dive into those a little bit more, I recommend a resource, Dr. Aviva Romm and her book, Hormone Intelligence. So wonderful. I love Dr. Romm. So we've got our female sex hormones. We've also got our androgens. Those are known as our male sex hormones, and even us females have those, hormones like testosterone. Then we've got our glucocorticoids. So these are known as more of our energy or stress hormones, things like cortisol and adrenaline. And these hormones are often pretty vilified, right? We think of cortisol as this villain that is working against us. It's making us gain weight around our middle. It's making us overwhelmed and stressed and just high strung and not enjoying our life. But we need those glucocorticoids. Those are also our energy hormones. We just want our energy hormones and all our hormones to be produced in our body at the right levels, at the right times. And we also need to make sure our body is metabolizing excess amounts or unused amounts of those hormones. So, finally, the last group of hormones I'm going to talk about are metabolic hormones. So these are things like insulin that control your blood sugar. And this hormone is important not just if you're diabetic, but to all of us, because unregulated blood sugar often really drives those stress hormones. And those stress hormones can, when unchecked for long periods of time, wreak havoc on our sex hormones. So I'm starting to kind of illustrate how this is a process. It's sometimes called the hormone cascade, how different hormones affect one another. Another one of our metabolic hormones that's really important and we don't talk about or haven't learned about very often is called ghrelin. And that's a hunger and satiety hormone. So, these hormones, I like to think of the metabolic hormones and the glucocorticoids as kind of these upstream hormones. They're affected by, stimuli in our lives. Again, those stresses that I talked about, the foods that we eat, those really greatly affect our glucocorticoids and our metabolic hormones. Then there's the downstream effect of those sex hormones. So, unlike we've learned, or maybe we really haven't learned at all, unfortunately, about our hormones as women. But those sex hormones are really sort of the downstream, the result of what is happening with those upstream hormones. So you can kind of see how these ladies coming to me saying, oh my God, I'm having these painful periods, I'm having this brutal perimenopause, how it's not just a matter of saying, oh, here's a pill for that. Here's an herb for that. Now, there are some amazing herbs and nutrition that can be transformative and really, really help. But we've got to look at your body as an entire ecosystem that, has lots of different factors, lots of different little organisms going on in the big ecosystem, almost like your body's like a beautiful forest with lots of flora and fauna. And we want all these flora and fauna of your body and your hormones to be living in a symbiotic relationship, meaning these hormones are helping out one another. So in Ayurveda, the Indian system of medicine that I use to help clients, Ayurveda talks about your sex hormones being what they call the last level of tissue nourishment. Now, in Sanskrit, the language of Ayurveda, it's called Artava Dhatu, and it means the female reproductive tissues and related chemicals. But these are known to be the last level of tissue nourishment. And what that means is that all of our other tissues inform and affect how healthy our reproductive tissues and hormones are. So our blood, our lymph tissue, how healthy your skin and bone tissue, all of this affects your sex hormones. So this might sound daunting, like, oh my God, these are all related. Now I have to address all of these things. But have faith. You can be happy and hopeful about this actually, because it's actually the opposite. As we heal the upstream issues, as we address the glucocorticoid stress hormones, as we address the metabolic issues, the sex hormones rebalance themselves. Good news, right? Yes, but it does take a little time. So now that we've established that foundational concept, we're going to launch into the first two of our top 4 hormone tips. So, number 1, and this one has a lot to do with those glucocorticoids, those stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. So this tip is to reduce your cafe and your vino. Or reduce your coffee or caffeine and your alcohol. So I use cafe and vino because many ladies so enjoy their beautiful coffees, even some of those fancier coffee drinks they may get at Starbucks, or here in Louisville, our best local coffee chain's called Heine Brothers, and it's wonderful. So, we're just loving, right? These lattes and mochas and espressos. And then we sometimes like to cap off our day, or a long, long day and our evening, with some vino or some wine as we're making dinner, maybe while we're eating dinner, maybe even after dinner while we're watching our favorite program. But whatever caffeine or alcohol that you're imbibing, these things really, really affect your stress hormones. They spike cortisol and adrenaline. So for a lot of clients of my wonderful, beautiful, professional ladies who are so accomplished, they are getting shit done. And sometimes they're surviving, at least for the first part of their day, off of coffee, which I like to call liquid cortisol. So what does this do? This can really increase your anxiety, your overwhelm, tension in your body. It can also deplete healthy levels of estrogen and progesterone. Remember how we talked about this upstream and downstream effect, this hormone cascade. So what we're doing upstream will affect our downstream, our last level of tissue nourishment, which is our reproductive tissues and the estrogen and progesterone that help our entire bodies and keep those tissues healthy. So caffeine, excess caffeine, really, really depletes those things. So a tip around this, if you're gonna do coffee, I recommend to limit it to 1 cup a day, and preferably with or after breakfast. After food is the best way that you can do it. It really will have much less of an effect on your anxiety. It'll spike your cortisol and adrenaline far less if you have your coffee on a stomach that is not completely empty. So yes, this even applies if you're doing, I have a lot of ladies that are like, but I'm doing bulletproof coffee. I put collagen powder in it and ghee or coconut oil. And so it's this nourishing thing. However, what that can do is still really create a lot of tension in your gut and still spike that cortisol and adrenaline. You could also try a wonderful coffee replacement. So, some of my favorites are green tea. And to me, green tea can actually be kind of boring. So, I prefer like a ginger green tea or a peppermint green tea. Lemongrass green tea is also wonderful. And lemongrass is a wonderful herb if you have PCOS and the PCOS related symptom called hirsutism, which is facial hair growing, usually kind of on your jawline. Having at least 3 cups of lemongrass tea a day can really help with hirsutism. And it tastes wonderful. It has a very cooling effect. Another beverage that's pretty tasty, that's a great coffee replacement, is dandelion tea. And I always love traditional medicinals brand organic dandelion root tea. And it's really kind of dark and roasty. There's also a powdered dandelion tea called Dandy Blend, and that's also very kind of dark and roasty and toasty. But I will tell you, I'm saving the best for last. My favorite coffee replacement is an adaptogenic blend. Adaptogenic means that it contains these herbs that really help your body adapt to stress. So these herbs help reduce anxiety. They help restore healthy cortisol and adrenaline levels. And this blend is called Rasa Coffee, Rasa Coffee. And I should be an affiliate with them, but I am not. I love them so much. I tell everyone about them. And this blend is so beautiful. It has some cinnamon, it's got ashwagandha, it's got some chicory root, I believe, which is like that roasty, toasty, dark root. Sometimes chicory root is actually in coffee, like mixed in with coffee. I think at that famous New Orleans cafe, Cafe Du Monde, where you get your coffee and your beignets. They're famous for putting chicory in their coffee, and it just gives it like a little wonderful extra roasty, like je ne sais quoi, to continue with our French theme there. I do not speak French. I speak Spanish and English, obviously. So, I digress. Those are some favorite coffee replacements. But again, if you are going to drink coffee, just try to do it in the morning. So be finished with your coffee by 10 a.m. so your body has a chance to metabolize that extra cortisol and adrenaline that the coffee is going to give you. And so that stress hormone, AKA energy hormone, is not hanging out in your body later in the day and interfering with good sleep. That's another way that caffeine often hampers healthy sex hormones because it's interfering with good sleep. It's kind of keeping our nervous system activated. So there you've got my coffee tips. Reduce that cafe. Also reduce your alcohol. Trying to limit alcohol to 1 to 3 drinks a week, 1 drink per sitting. And this is super important. Ladies, finishing that drink by 7 p.m. to reduce sleep disturbances and blood sugar issues. So I cannot tell you how many of my clients say, oh my God, I try to drink red wine if I ever drink, but I wake up in the middle of the night, with a night sweat or just, feeling kind of exhausted but wired, like my nervous system's just activated. And this is a blood sugar issue. So if you can make your drink into a happy hour by having it, maybe if I was going to have a glass of wine, I might have a little bit before dinner and then finish off my glass with dinner and then not have any after 7 p.m. My body is super sensitive to these things, probably after being a rock and roller for so many years and basically surviving off whiskey and beer. And I think I've got some other podcast episodes that tell you a little bit more about that former part of my life. But I wanted to share it with you just, quickly, this little snippet in this episode, because I want you to know that I have been there over consuming both coffee and alcohol. And I want that to let you feel like seen and not judged, because I know there was certainly a time in my life that if someone told me to limit my alcohol to 1 to 3 drinks a week, I'd be like, girl, you're crazy. Or girl, you're no fun. But that was when I was 20 something and actually having probably more hormonal issues than I have now, but I just didn't know it. I didn't know that my weight gain, my anxiety, my mood swings were hormonally related. I thought there was just something wrong with me. That's our culture for you, right? So limit and be so mindful of your coffee and your alcohol consumption. Those can really keep us on a big roller coaster, a stress hormone roller coaster, which will then very adversely affect our sex hormones and aggravate symptoms of all hormonally related conditions like PMS, endometriosis, fertility issues, perimenopause, and menopausal symptoms. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, and this is my favorite thing. I feel like such a 43-year-old mom, but tip number two is sleep and eat on a schedule. So align your daily schedule with your body's natural clock or your circadian rhythm. Us humans are diurnal creatures. We are not nocturnal creatures, although some people might say, oh, I'm like a night owl. I'm just kind of nocturnal and always have been. Well, Ayurveda would definitely present you with an alternative view that this is a learned tendency and that it's really not serving you, especially if you have hormonal issues. Staying up late at night, sleeping in, eating erratic, irregular meals is really, really triggering and perpetuating all the hormone issues. So, your two really powerful energy and sleep hormone, your cortisol, your energy hormone, your melatonin, your sleep hormone, these are produced in a rhythm, a very specific rhythm over the course of the day, where cortisol really spikes very early in the morning, and we want to wake up, between 5 and 7:30 a.m. when that cortisol is really spiking. That way we can use this energy hormone to kind of propel us into our day. Conversely, our melatonin, our sleep hormone, really steeply inclines. It starts to really ramp up in its production between about 8:30 p.m. and about 10:30 p.m. So, similarly to the cortisol, we want to ride that wave of melatonin right when it starts to really ramp up. We want to start getting ready for bed, start falling asleep during that time so we can maximize the benefits of these two hormones. This cortisol, this melatonin, these are our friends if we know how to befriend them and use them appropriately. So, ideal bed and wake times are around 10 p.m.-ish, give or take a half hour to an hour. Ideal wake time around 6 to 7 a.m., give or take about 30 minutes. If you're super far away from the sleep schedule right now, don't hate me and say mean things about me or Ayurveda. Just use this as an opportunity to get curious and say, hey, how could I start to just shift that bedtime a little earlier, 15 minutes earlier? How can I shift that wake time 15 minutes earlier and see how my body starts to respond? With that wake time, sometimes when we sleep in past about 8 a.m., our cortisol spike has started to kind of smooth out and cortisol is starting to fall. And we wake up at 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10, and we feel groggy. And it's not because we haven't gotten enough sleep, because we've gotten plenty of sleep. It's because we've missed that kind of sweet spot cortisol spike window. And now that energy hormone is decreasing, although some of that cortisol is kind of stuck in our body because we've not metabolized it. And that can really linger later in the day. We can experience that as tension and restlessness instead of like, ooh, fun, zesty energy. So get curious about these ideal bed and wake times, 10 p.m. to about 6 a.m. Next up, eating on a schedule. Eating 3 sit-down meals a day at regular times. So ideal times are somewhere around 8 a.m. for breakfast, 12 p.m. for lunch, 6 p.m. for dinner. Now, you can really definitely give or take an hour or so. I'd say a healthy breakfast, especially if you're waking up at your optimal time around 6 a.m., your healthy breakfast could be anywhere from, 7 to 8:30. Your lunch, Ayurveda says, eat lunch anytime between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's when your digestive fire, your pitta in your body, that's the fiery dosha that's responsible for your metabolism. So that pitta fire is burning brightly. We want to eat our main meal of the day, our lunch, around that time. And then be finished with supper by about 7 p.m. if possible. Again, if you're super far away from this rhythm, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel like you're doing it wrong. Don't feel like all is lost. Instead, think of this as such fuel, such an opportunity to wiggle around your timing a little bit. Healthy hormones in a healthy body are not about counting calories. They're not only about what we're eating or drinking or what we're not eating or drinking. Sometimes we're so reductionistic in our culture, just thinking about our diet. But how great is it that little choices we make throughout our day can really ground us, ground our mind, body, spirit into having healthier hormones? To sum it up, this tip 2, sleep and eat on a schedule, is so important because your body heals during sleep and your body establishes a healthy metabolism with regularity of meals. So, gifting yourself a really healthy daily rhythm can have the most wonderful and profound effects and benefits for your hormones. I hope that you have enjoyed today's deep dive into hormones and our first and second of our top 4 hormone tips. Join me again next week for tips number 3 and 4. You're going to love them. One's kind of funny. And I just can't wait to be with you again and talk about such an important and empowering topic. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for being here with me today. Remember, you can feel your best naturally. Just try one new thing a week that you learn here and watch your body and life transform. And if you're ready to take this to the next level, learn your dosha, get your personalized holistic plan, and live beautifully balanced, you've got to come see me at sarahteeple.com. That's SARAHTEEPLE.com. There you can learn about how to work with me one-on-one or book a free holistic chat and just tell me what you're working on. I love to hear from you and help you live your best life. So until next time, be well. Oh, and if you love this conversation, please rate and review our podcast. That really helps more people find natural healthcare options. Thanks again, and see you soon.